like my siblings were born in Manchester. I was saying to you before, I was born in Botswana in Africa. But because I've got two older brothers who are Man United fans, I very quickly became a Manchester United fan. I remember like 3-4 years old. And then as soon as I could, when I was 18, I moved up from the southwest to Manchester at 18 years old, and I lived here and went to my first Manchester United games. I've seen the club go on this incredible journey from, Sir Alex Ferguson's era to this sort of period of transition to where we are now. And it's my observation, my honest observation, that in the post-Fergie era, the club made some bad decisions as it relates to recruitment and culture. People often talk about Ed Woodward's. I'm not gonna try and stitch you up in any way or get you to talk about anything particular. I'm just expressing my opinion. They talk about Ed Woodward's strategy towards signing players and it being a bit flippant. And then you look at the sort of group of lads that we had. And just as a United fan watching on the pitch, I felt the culture was a bit confused because it didn't seem like it seems now, where it seems like there's this really strong central agreement around the values. It felt a bit, I don't know, a bit like we had signed players because they were famous or big, but not because they fit. And I feel when I look at the club now, I go, oh, these guys kind of fit. And whoever's doing recruiting is thinking about character. It feels to me like there's been this process over the last couple of years of getting rid of the wrong character profiles. And I think Amorim really spoke to this. He really talked about getting rid of the players that didn't have the right character profile. Just to add one more line to this, I've spoken to a lot of players at the club in past and present, and they expressed the same to me as well, that there was an issue with sort of character profile that has now been solved for.
I think the main mistake that the club has done through the years is that we've changed manager through manager. They were very different. And that's already a bad sign, not of recruitment, because then you bring in players that fit that manager. Mm-hmm. But the next one you brought plays a completely different way. And the 3 or 4 or 5 that you bought don't fit this one anymore. And then you have to buy another 4 or 5. Mm-hmm. And then the constantly change of strategy in the club or in the way we wanted to play or whatsoever was not the best, because then obviously it becomes that the players don't suit anymore the system. It's not even more the character then it comes up, but it's more the system. Then obviously we can talk about character, certain players that were not a perfect fit for the club, but you never know it until you bring it to the club. I think sometimes you can see it, and I think it's there players that I think the club, by the behavior they have on the pitch or the behavior they have on social media whatsoever, you can see if they will be a fit for the club or not. And I think the main thing for the club, as you said there, you need to bring good characters, because that will be more important to build something that good qualities. Because good qualities, they will have. You don't bring a player to Man United that doesn't have qualities. But if you can add the qualities to the character, that's a win-win. Mm-hmm. Because the qualities will be moments that the quality won't be as good as you want, because players go through periods that sometimes they play very good, sometimes they play very bad. But the character remains the same. And that's the character you want, where they are on a low, to be the right character to push himself to be on a high, or at the same time when they are on the low, to be the right character to push the other ones to be at the top level. And I think that's the main thing that the club has to do in terms of recruitment and everything, is bringing people, first of all, that want to be a Man United to play for Man United, not to be a Man United just because it's a big club. They want to be here because this is the club they think, and they really understand that they want to succeed with this club. They want to bring this club back to the days we were used to see Man United. I know it's been 12, 13 years, I know, but we want that to get as short as possible to become that club that won 20 Premier League titles and is joined the most in the Premier League. Mm-hmm. So character in a football club is more important than the quality, because the quality, you're always going to get it and you can improve it.
This is what I heard from Patrice Evra. I remember him telling me that he met Sir Alex Ferguson in an airport, I think in France. And Sir Alex Ferguson sat him down and said, "Are you willing to die for Manchester United?" And he said, "Yes." And so he shook his hand. He said, "Welcome to Manchester United." And that's a different way of recruiting. He's not testing if he can kick a ball well. He's testing if he's got the heart and that mentality that I think Fergie and previous sort of cohorts of Manchester United really, really cared about.
I think Sir Alex, obviously he's done mistakes in recruitment too, because obviously not every player was great, but he always brings players in any time, in any moment, they would fit the club. And that's the main thing, I think, in terms of recruitment. But this is like something that is not for me to get involved, but I will say it. I understand the club as different manager comes in and different ways of playing and whatsoever. But the recruitment has to be for Man United, because the player will get normally a 5 years contract and the manager will get 2. And you know that if something is not working, the club always gets rid of the manager first, then he gets rid of the player, because it's much more difficult. So I think you always have to bring players that fit the club, and then you bring managers that fit the club and the players you've got. Mm-hmm. And I think that says to be the thing that, for example, let's talk about Klopp and Pep, why they were so successful, because they chose the players in togetherness with the club that will fit the club, the system, and the way they wanted to play. And through the years, have they done mistakes? Of course. Have they bought players that didn't work? Yes. But I think we're more the ones that worked than the ones that didn't. And the ones that didn't work, I haven't seen many of them coming out and talking bad about the club or about the manager whatsoever. Yeah, it's difficult to be there and a club buy you for 50, 60, 70 million and then you don't play when you thought, oh I'm going to play because they're paying this amount of money for me, I'm going to play. Then you get there, you don't play. Of course it's difficult. But what I've seen is that they built in a way that the squad was strong enough to take care of those players that were not playing and were struggling.
One of the things I've noticed as a change, especially this season, is all this social media distraction, people posting on their Instagram stories when they don't play, their brother, sister posting, my brother should be playing, whatever. All of this sort of like social media stuff that some players were doing over the last couple of years seems to have vanished. And this is just an interesting, we talk about small things being interesting signals. It's one of the things I've noticed this year. There isn't social media nonsense going on. I guess my question is that something the club has done? Have they sat you down and said, stop the social media stuff? Or is it just a consequence of getting the right people together?
I think it's a little bit both, but at the same time, I think the club has to be the one being strong with the players. When they see something that is not right, or they don't like it, or it's not good on the players, on the team, on the attention this club gets, I think the club needs to talk with them and with the agents, with the families, whatsoever that speaks out and says something. Because I think it's also on the players to make the families and everyone that is behind them understand that what they put out or what they say can have consequences on our careers.
Do you talk to the players about this?
If I see something that I don't like, or if I see them posting or replying to some people on social whatsoever, because, for example, from such a young age, I've said to my parents, I've said to my brother, I've said to my sister, I don't want you talking without me knowing it. Not because they don't know how to talk, whatever, but they're not aware what can be bad or wrong. They might think they will gonna say something that is gonna be good for me, but maybe has repercussions on other people, and I don't want them to do that. So my parents never spoke, my brother never spoke, my sister never spoke when I wasn't playing. Let people make noise, let people talk. It doesn't matter what they say. I know for my mom, for example, she suffers a lot with this, and I say, take it in, don't care, pray at your saints like you do to me all the time, and make sure they do the right thing for me, because that's what matters. And she kind of like gets okay with that. Obviously, I know that probably when my brother sees something or my sister, they want to reply to something. They want to say, it's not true. Why are you talking about this? My brother, whatever. I don't want them to get involved in that, because it's not going to be good for them. Not going to be good for me, and it's not going to be good for my environment, and I don't want that. But I think that is because I was strong with my family in the first moment, and I think that's how you have to be. I don't go home to my family and saying like, this manager this manager that. I might say what I like or I don't like, whatever, but I don't go in a way of like, if I had someone that could put something out because I've been doing this. I don't care like to people to put out, oh, Bruno is training so well. Bruno is doing this. Bruno is doing that. I know I'm doing it. That's enough for me.
Mm. And it's true because, you've been through this process of transition with Ollie, then Carrick, then Raf, then Eric, then Ruben, then Fletcher, then Carrick again.